let's talk about some backstops. Each league. We'll start in the National League. Will Smith versus William Contreras. Which of these you guys do you have here?
Man, the Dodger over the Milwaukee Brewer. Again, the numbers probably aren't going to amount to be enough for William Contreras, despite him being more valuable. Again, similar to the Harper Freeman Phillies versus Dodgers, where Smith is fourth on the depth chart. After the weekend in New York, Teoscar Hernandez, you say maybe he's actually been more valuable than Will Smith, but both of those guys have been great, and Will Smith has been fine, I guess. A player with only one All-Star appearance to this point after signing, just signed a large extension with the Dodgers, but it's kind of more circumstantial than anything. So, I think both of them are very much deserving, and I know for William Contreras, it would be somewhat of a first time in a long time, because I think the last time that a Brewers catcher was voted to start at catcher was Hall of Famer Ted Simmons in like 1983. So
Wow.
That's kind of interesting, and that certainly would be nice for that franchise there. So, but I again tend to lean towards the chalk there, and I think the fans will probably support Will Smith, and I think he has maybe a little bit more brand awareness or recognition, right? Like I think people might know Will Smith a little bit more than William Contreras. I could be wrong on that one, though. What do you think?
I think there is maybe a case to be made that William Contreras, from the sort of general baseball fan, not necessarily a casual, but someone that pays attention to the game, might know Contreras more in the sense that he really has, from having his great season with the Braves where he was an all-star at DH to the breakout campaign last year as a catcher to what we've seen now as him sort of being the face of this revitalized Brewers team that's been so much fun, him and Christian Yelich having unbelievable resurgent season. Maybe he does have a slight edge on recognition. Like I think if you were to poll like 10 of our writers at Just Baseball, I think that Contreras would maybe be favored, but there's still the fact that Will Smith is playing for the Dodgers, has that behind him. And I'm looking at the stats because Contreras got out to an early lead in this. I mean, it is as close as you can get. They're identical in weighted runs created plus. Their OPS is separated by 8 points. Smith has the edge. You look at their WAR totals, they're separated by a single point. So there are the baseball fans that will go to Fangraphs and they will just look at, all right, who is the most valuable? And they will vote that player. Day by day, it could change on where you'd vote because these guys are that close to each other. So both of them is very deserving. I'd like to see Contreras go because I think it's just a better story to follow. At the same time, though, Will Smith at some point deserves to get recognition because he has consistently been one of the best catchers in baseball. And he does feel like a guy that gets overlooked a lot in that conversation.
Yeah, they're very similar in that way too. Also, in the literal sense of name recognition, who has less recognition than a guy named Will Smith in baseball? There's another Will Smith that's won World Series the last 3 years and never once laid his hands on Chris Rock. And then you have another catcher named W. Contreras that's not a 3-time All-Star, and Wilson Contreras. No, we're talking about William Contreras. So it is crazy how that kind of lines up in that way. And yeah, I don't know how this one's going to stack up, right? It could very much go down to that phase 2 voting, or like who's hot during that period of time. You're right. And it will be very interesting to see who goes, because this is one of those cases where I think whoever doesn't win almost is assured a spot in Texas, in Arlington. Whereas in some of the other ones, someone could possibly get left off. Like Rafael Devers is doing great, but sometimes guys get squeezed out because every team does need to have a representative. So I think this one will be another really fun battle to watch.
Yeah, I think of all the names we discussed so far, Devers probably is the one that could get squeezed because you have Paredes where he might need to be the Rays All-Star. I think Tanner Houck is absolutely going to be an All-Star for the Red Sox, so they're going to have some pitchers that sneak in there, and so maybe that happens. Ultimately, I'd imagine all these guys get in.